Security of life and property is one of the cardinal responsibility of governments, be it federal, state, or local. In Imo State and other parts of the country, insecurity has slowed down developments, caused people's lives, properties destroyed, and so many other consequences of insecurity which you cannot enumerate all here. No doubt the Imo State government, through Governor Uzodimma, has been working round the clock to stem down the tide of insecurity in Imo State. In today's episode, the Commissioner for Homeland Security and Vigilante, Dr. Okechukwu Ugorji, will be telling us on the gains the government has made against insecurity. After that, the museums and monuments in Imo State will be in focus. The curator, National Museums and Monuments, Mr. Chamberlain Amadi will also be here to take us through on what they have in stock in the National Museum in Ugorji along Olu Road in the city. So having said that, it's my pleasure and my honor to introduce my first guest, a pioneer commissioner. That's talking about Dr. Okechukwu Ugorji, the pioneer Imo State Commissioner for Homeland and Vigilante Affairs. Before ascending to the post of commissionership, he was the intelligence and security advisor to the governor of Imo State, which means he did well, and he was found, that made the governor to use him as the pointer to establish a new ministry called the Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs. Dr. Ugorji, Okechukwu Ugorji, or Ugorji as you may wish, is an author, is an academician, somebody who has written about 10 books. Imagine the kind of books and what time it is these days. These days people don't read, they find it difficult to open a book. And somebody says, if you want to hide money for a child, put it inside a textbook. But Dr. Ugorji, Okechukwu Ugorji, has written 10 books. One of his books is titled Securing the Homeland, Essay in Security, Leadership, Intelligence Analysis, and Crisis Management, among others. So that is the man we are bringing on board, and he has worked in so many places. I think he and China Achebe, they co-authored or they co-had something together. And he is a doctorate degree holder from one of the prestigious universities in New Jersey called Rutgers University in Brunswick in the United States of America. So let me not, if I start talking about his CV, you may be distracted. I'm bringing to you the personality, Dr. Ugorji, Okechukwu Ugorji, the pioneer commissioner, Imo State Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs Commissioner. You are welcome to 60 Minutes Live, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir. So, man, looking at you, somebody who wouldn't even ever thought that you had something to do with academics. So, what is your little story about it? Just in a minute.
Well, as you indicated, my terminal degree, or doctorate degree, is from Rutgers University, New Brunswick, New Jersey. It's in educational administration. But the training and education that brought me to this position is Homeland Security. So I have a master's degree in Homeland Security from the George Washington University in Washington, D.C., which was actually my second master's degree. And before that, I had 2 bachelor's degrees, one in biology and the other in psychology. So I'm a lifelong learner, so to speak. And whenever I find the opportunities to acquire more knowledge and education, I have tended to do so.
Well, Doctor, since we're in security, if I have my way, I'll make you a vice chancellor of the university, because you have the intimidating credentials to pioneer university that gives knowledge to many.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Let's come to why we are here. We're talking about security and insecurity.
Yes,
so there are no doubts the Imo State governor has been making efforts. I know since inception of his governance or government, the security in the state changed. The tide changed. Imo used to be one of the most peaceful states in Nigeria, and the thing now turned upside down. So can we know what are those efforts the government has put in place to stabilize security in Imo State.
In Imo
So,
State.
yes, sir.
Well, thank you. Thanks again for having me. I'm glad to be in the studio with you. First of all, the first thing that the governor, or the most significant thing, at least from my vantage point as a Commissioner for Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs, that the governor has done, is the creation of the Ministry of Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs. It is the first time in the history of the state that such a ministry has been created. And it emphasizes His Excellency's priority in the area of security and safety for lives and property in Imo State. The idea was to bring about a whole of government approach instead of an ad hoc approach to security challenges. The governor wants to bring a whole of government and a whole of community approach to homeland security, or to the securing of lives and property in Imo State. So essentially there are two major components of dealing with security challenges here in the state and everywhere else in the world. The first is what is known as hard power, which is what people tend to think of when they think of security. And hard power refers to the military, the police, and all those security agencies that are set up to protect the sovereignty and defend the sovereignty of the nation. So whenever there are challenges to the sovereignty of the nation, components of hard power, the military, the police, the DSS, and other security agencies essentially play significant roles in keeping the peace and in maintaining security and safety in the nation and in the state. But there's a second component, and that component is called soft power. Soft power essentially means that the government systematically and strategically deals with some of those issues that, if you don't address them in society, will eventually lead to security challenges. Issues such as unemployment, for instance, issues such as justice or injustice, as the case may be, equity and inequity. So an alienation on the part of, for instance, the youth, alienation from their, or a feeling of alienation from their society or from the governing structure. So His Excellency has focused his attention on both the hard power by working closely with the security agencies in the country, especially those of them that are stationed here in Imo State. He's working very closely with them and been very supportive, perhaps the most supportive governor in the nation with respect to security issues. And I'm not just saying that by myself. You have the Inspector General of Police, Alkali Baba Usman, say that. You have the Chief of Staff of Army say that when they came for Army Day here in Imo State. And so His Excellency has focused and worked very closely with security agencies. And on the side of the soft power, he's worked with labor and productivity ministries, the new digital economy ministry that he set up to work on developing employment opportunities and business opportunities and entrepreneurial opportunities for our young people in particular, so that they can be gainfully and productively engaged and not be attracted to activities that bring them in conflict with security agencies.
Okay, sir. You've given enough background of the Ministry of Homeland Security and Homeland Security Affairs, yes, sir. Do you think that all these efforts are they yielding the required results? Because by now, people ought to say, I can sleep with my eyes closed. Are they yielding enough results?
Definitely, they're yielding enough results. What I want to remind our people is that about a couple of years ago or so, Imo State was targeted by several forces for destabilization, right? There were political gladiators who swore to make the state ungovernable for the governor. There are criminal syndicates who are making a living by fomenting criminality, which often involves violence. And then, of course, we have the issue of the separatist movement that also affects us here in Imo State. So the governor has brought peace back to Imo State. the best way to appreciate what the governor has achieved is to think in terms of, for instance, Haiti, right? The current status of security issues in Haiti, or think in terms of Lebanon back in the day when there was chaos, or Mogadishu when there was chaos in terms of security challenges. That's what the governor prevented happening in Imo. That was what was designed by some actors to happen in Imo. By those actors, again, I mean some political opponents of the governor, some elements within the separatist movement, and just bare criminal syndicate operators had designed Imo to be a war zone, essentially. But the governor has placed high priority on returning the state to peace. We have currently many of our sons and daughters from overseas and from other parts of Nigeria who have come home to join friends and family to celebrate the Christmas period and to prepare for the new year. Several of the end of the year programs in all of our communities are going on all over the state, with our people participating with confidence and with joy. So the governor has done tremendously well to bring peace back to Imo, and he has spent quite a lot of resources with the security agencies and with advocacy groups in order to accomplish that.
Okay, you made mention of politically motivated issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, several times, whenever there are issues or the governor comes out to speak, he accuses the politician, the political class, for sponsoring and motivating criminal activities and attacks on government facilities and all whatnot. And he keep on saying that he is going to mend them. So is it really political motivated, or if it's political motivated and you are aware, what is government doing to pick up those who are behind some of these heinous crimes? Because security is for everybody.
That's correct. Well, if you've been paying attention in the media lately, you would have seen that our security agencies, by that I mean the DSS headed by Director Wilcox, the police headed by CP Barde, and of course the military army brigade here in Owerri headed by Major General Suleiman, you would notice that there has been several arrests of some of the key actors and operators in the violence that we have been experiencing here in Imo State. And some of those people arrested have been naming names. It is not in my place to name those names here. The police and the DSS and other security agencies have those names. And I can assure you there are investigations going on, and whoever has been genuinely and truthfully identified as being behind these activities as a sponsor or as an inspirator, I mean somebody who inspires these things, the security agencies are equal to the task to name them as at when it is appropriate to do so.
Okay, sir, that's a good one. Coming again, since we're talking about all these attacks and everything, there have been so many attacks on government facilities, police stations in particular, INEC offices, local government offices, and all whatnot. And security is all about intelligence, and you were a security advisor to the governor on intelligence and the security. Mm-hmm. Are there no better way of preventing? Well, they say prevention is better than cure, rather than curative. Mm-hmm. Because anytime there is an attack, the government rolls out drums, the security men come out, blah, blah, blah. Even at times people say the arrest those perceived to be innocent people. So are there no ways that those things can be prevented from intelligence reports?
Well, what you don't know is those that were prevented, because the things that are prevented don't make the news, and the security agencies are usually not in the tradition of talking about things they've done to prevent certain things. What makes the news is what sort of misses or becomes missing in the crack. Every now and then, the criminal elements and those who sponsor them would have some success at attacking, and they target security outposts because those security outposts impede their impunity, impede the work of criminal elements. So they don't want those security outfits there, right? So every now and then, some of those attacks may slip through the cracks, but I assure you that several of them have been prevented by the intelligence network that you speak to, or you were speaking about. So what's usually not seen is what is prevented, is that which occurs that it often makes the news. But even in those situations where attacks do occur, the governor has worked hard with the various security agencies to make sure that those security outposts that were destroyed or attacked come back to full operation. For instance, there are a couple of police stations in Ahias and in Abombise, and I traveled with the CP to those communities along with the various lads in those communities and had stakeholder meetings to essentially let the community know that these stations will come back to operation. Which brings me to one of the other things the governor has done very well. The governor has had stakeholders meetings with various communities in various zones of the state, which is part of the security strategy as well, so that you get to understand from everybody concerned what the security challenges are in various locales, and two, to have a buy-in from the community, to have a buy-in in the strategy that the government has come up with respect to security. His Excellency had wanted my ministry and instructed us to anchor security formations, especially with the vigilante affairs aspect of our ministry, to anchor those on traditional rulers. Because we want to be able to give traditional rulers, give them the tools to be the security chiefs in their various autonomous communities, and then to eventually hold them accountable should something happen within their communities that challenges the security of the state. Because they know, or they are supposed to know, their citizens better than anybody else from outside. So we want to work closely, and have been working closely with traditional rulers across the state to organize vigilante groups and to make sure that their security challenges get the attention it requires from the state.
Okay, you have really preempted one or two of my questions on the vigilante and the traditional institution in combating crime at the local level.
Right.
So since you've given up that one, there's no need of going back there. Then the issue of the non-state actors that are creating more fear. We talked about the separatist group.
Right.
I could talk about kidnapping.
Right.
So could talk about people run into groups like that to cause mayhem. And you were able to say that government is having a town hall meeting interface with communities and others. So is he thinking of coming out to so-called the separatists or those other people, the non-actors, to come, let's sit down and dialogue. What are your crowds?
Well, the dialogue so far has been with members of the various communities around the state, with leaders and with town union PGs in terms of coming up with strategies to help them in their various locales with respect to security challenges. If your question is whether the government is talking to the separatist movement, which I assume that's what your question is. So let me put it this way. Terrorism is defined essentially as the use of violence or the threat of violence by a non-state actor to pursue political goals, right? The government of the Imo State does not have a policy to have a direct discussion with terrorist organizations. And terrorist organizations within the Nigerian context have been defined by the state. By the state, I mean the Nigerian state. So we know who has been identified as a terrorist organization. So it's not the policy of the state government to have a direct interaction with members of terrorist organizations. But we are in direct contact with our youth, with our women, with our traditional rulers, with the various traditional institutions that we find in our society and our culture, to find a way to have a synergy with all of them so that we all become partners in this focus on providing security and safety in the state.
Okay, sir. Much has been talked about the state police, and that's why some other regions were forming their own regional security outfits, I think they started it from what they call Ibubago, and then the governor and the other people say they prefer the what they call police. There's one other police brought to assist more. So the issue of state policing has become an issue. As an advisor to the governor, former advisor to the governor on intelligence and security, and now commissioner for Homeland Security and Vigilante.
Right.
So, in what ways do you think, if the state buys into that, we can be able to leverage on that to be able to secure ourselves? Because now you have given kudos to the accolades from the chief of army staff, the chief of police staff, the commissioner of police, IG from Abuja, and the DSS, all commending the governor. Then, if we now have a state police where the governor need not to call from there, because if you put up a call, it takes through due process before they can assist you in terms of security. And again, the logistics you provide there can be used to make it possible here. So, what is the position of government through you of ministry and as an advisor to the governor on state police?
Well, there is a recognized clamoring for state police around the nation. I think virtually all the regions of the Nigerian state have come to agitate for state police. What I can tell you is that His Excellency Governor Uzodimma has supported the training and equipping of what is known as community policing. Right. I can also tell you that His Excellency, by law, had established the Imo Security Organization, IMSO. That organization is headed by a retired Major General Richard Duru. So we've gone through the process of training about 1,200 of our young people, men and women, who are now members of the Imo Security Organization. And His Excellency has indicated to me as Commissioner that he plans to activate that agency and officers of that agency in the next month. We are going into the first month of January. So we will have therefore a cadre of officers that have been trained under the supervision of General Duru, who will provide additional security coverage in the various localities they find themselves, because they all come from all the 27 local government areas of the state. So I say that to say this is not as a matter of state policy, it's a matter of my own personal observation that there is a move by the general public towards supporting eventual emergence of state police across the state, across the nation. It will be consistent with what you find in various advanced countries of the world. For instance, in the US, where I have lived for several years, you have the federal police, which is the FBI, it's known as the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And then you have state police, state troopers. And then below the state police, you have municipal police, like township police and things like that. So, the idea is that the closer you bring policing to the community, and the more you have members of that community policing themselves or being part of the policing effort, it is going to be more effective than to have, in some cases, people from other parts of the country who are not conversant with the traditions and customs and norms of a particular area. So that's the idea behind state police, but it's going to be a national decision to be made, perhaps even empowered by the National Assembly. That has not happened yet, and I'll leave that to the politicians to decide if and when they will move in that direction.
Okay, you said the governor has said by next month or next year he's going to activate the Imo Security Organization.
Yes.
Are they going to be will they carry arms?
Well, I mean, security requires arms. So, with the permission of the respective agencies, both federal and state, some of those officers have been trained and will, again, with licensing, under specialized and supervised conditions, be able to operate with some arms.
Okay. Let me go by next year, starting tomorrow, God willing, seeing us through. Political activities are going to increase in the nation and in the state. And currently, the collection of voters' cards, permanent voters' cards, people have been afraid. In some places, they've been attacked, and people are apprehensive of coming out to pick up their PVs against the next election.
Mm-hmm.
So what are those plans government is doing to increase security and to allay the fears of the people that they can go out, collect their PVCs during the voting period, and to match up the heavy campaigns, the word heavy just puts, that will commence from next month against February general election?
Well, first of all, what I would say is that the 2023 election is going to be a very important election, perhaps one of the most, if not the most important in our history. We have a president who has served us now, by that I mean President Buhari, who has served us now for 8 years almost, and he will not be running for re-election. So we will have a new leader, one way or another, come 2023. So I would encourage our citizens to go ahead, those of them that had gone to register to vote, to go ahead and pick up their PVCs. I am not aware of any, there's been some attacks at INEC offices, but not an attack on individuals going to collect their PVCs. And my information from INEC office is that even in spite of the attacks, the PVCs are available. Those who have registered should go forward and pick up their PVCs. It is important for all of us who have registered to vote to come out and vote in 2023. It is our responsibility as citizens, and I think the nation's future will rely on the choice we make in 2023.
Okay, sir. Imo is a tourist state, and the number of hospitality industries in Imo are enormous.
Correct.
And it used to be, let me use the word now, used to be because of the insecurity, the industry is no longer booming.
I disagree, sir. There was a point when that was an issue. But I say to you, nightlife has returned. Virtually all the hotels in Imo today, especially those in Owerri, are fully booked because of the Christmas season. Okay. So yes, there was a time some 2 years or so ago when you can say that, when even clubs were no longer open. But that's no longer the case. Nightlife has returned to Imo thanks to the efforts of His Excellency Governor Uzodimma and the security agencies in the state.
Okay, well, I will try out myself because I've been a little bit apprehensive. I used to be a night crawler, I'm still young. So, but because of when they say when you go out by 8 o'clock, everywhere is dry. So, but again, how will you increase presence of security, advice for the presence of security operators around those areas so that people can be assured? Because assurance from security operators, when you see them there, just no matter how people feel, presence of security men on the road or by the side builds up confidence. Correct. Anywhere you go, no matter what the situation is, they are better than any other arm of security. So are you thinking or advising that a presence of security operators should be built in such areas so that visitors can have more confidence?
Well, I can tell you that the Commissioner for Tourism, I think it's Barrister Ejamba, is working hard in the effort to recertify to recertify hotels in the area. Part of my ministry's interest in hotels in the area is also to make sure that hotels have a way of knowing who comes to stay with them. Because some of these criminal elements, once they make their money from kidnapping or whatever else, they want somewhere to go spend it, and quite often they go to hotels. So we want the hotels to be able to have a system where they have government-issued IDs requested of anybody that comes to check in with them. If they have that, then everybody that checks in the hotel, knowing that such a system exists, feels confident that he or she is in a place where there are security checks and balances, so to speak. Yes, the presence of security officers is helpful, but then too much of everything can be bad too. So we don't want to have security so much around hotels it begins to look like that is something we're afraid of. But you can be rest assured that through the various security agencies, federal and state, and through private security, because some of these hotels also hire private security to take care of their premises. With a combination of private security and state security, IMO is safe in terms of stay in hotels, and we have floods of our people from the US, from the UK, from Asia who have come home this Christmas period to be with family and friends.
Yes, sir. Let me ask this, whether you have really advised the security agencies. There has been always, your ministry is called the Commissioner for Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs. Right. So, and when talked about those things that you try that will prevent the young ones from going into crime and whatnot, or having clashes with security operatives. Have you noticed that this incident every other time, when the police sees the young ones, they stop them, collect their phones, browse their phones, and tag them one thing, possibly through any other means? And every time you have that kind of, have you been able to advise, or will you be able to advise the security outfits? Because the IG has said that nobody has right to pick up somebody's phone and be browsing.
Yeah, I mean, the protection of human rights and civil liberties is part of legitimate security operations. And we have had interactions with the Commissioner of Police in Imo State, CP Bade, who has assured us that police officers have been trained and oriented to respect the human rights and civil liberties of our citizens. So I have not personally seen the incident that you're talking about, but we are conscious of the fact that with training and orientation and with interface with our police officers, there has been and will continue to be respect for human rights and civil liberties in the state.
So, the Commissioner for Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs, we have had about something minutes talking.
Already, okay.
We're talking cool. I wish you brought one of your books for people to know that you are not only a security advisor, that you are an academician. So, what advice, totally, as a to end the year, do you have for us, the people, the youths, the government, and the citizenry?
First of all, I want to wish our people all the best in the new year. I think today is the last day of the year.
Yeah.
So tomorrow we step into a new year. I want to wish our people all the best in the new year. We are in a state that is governed by a man named Hope. I want them to have hopes for a greater future for their children, for their brethren, and for members of their professions, including those of you who are in journalism. I wish you all the best. And I want to assure our people that the number one priority of His Excellency Governor Hope Uzodimma is the security and safety of our people. Without security, not much else can be accomplished. He has made tremendous strides in development, in road building, in infrastructure establishment in the state, in spite of the security challenges. Then imagine how much more he would have achieved without the distractions and the disturbances we find with the security challenges in the state. So I want to assure our people that the governor goes to bed every night and wakes up every morning thinking about the safety and security of our people. And we in the Ministry of Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs, we say we are on duty 24 hours, 7 days a week. If there are any security challenges anywhere in the state, please feel free to contact us, and we'll do all we can to intervene for our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ugorji, Okechukwu Ugorji. Thank you for being our guest today. It's been a nice time talking with you. Soft spoken, but very intelligent. Okay. That's how far we can go on this segment.